Hey, what's up, guys? It's Aaron J. Daigle to talk about shifting from God use me to God make me usable. When I finally learned what I'm about to share with you, I realized that God wanted to do something through my life and have an impact through me bigger than I even wanted or could have even imagined at the time. So if you're wondering how to make my life count, what is my purpose? Will God ever use me? How will I make a difference for Jesus? Then this video is for you, and it's as much for you as is that little gray thumb on the bottom of this video that Google put there for you to smash until it turns blue to help out with the channel on the YouTube algorithm. But seriously, I do appreciate the like, and let's get started now talking about the shift from God use me to make me usable. Now, this whole concept comes from a time when I was younger and was pastoring in a church and would go to a room and pray and seek God and ask Him to use me. I would tell Him, God, I have a desire to travel and to help other pastors. I want to encourage people all over the country and around the world. I want to speak life into churches and into marriages and into people. So, God, would you use me? Would you open the door and let me travel? And maybe there's something in your life like that where you just seek God and you're asking Him, God, I really want to do this for you. I really want to have an impact in this particular area. It could be with a certain type of people. It can be in a certain geographical location. It might be in a particular church. It might be a certain style of ministry. It could be online or in person. It could be anything, but there's something in your heart that you are seeking God for, saying, God, use me in this area. And it was through seeking God in my life, the same way you're doing now for yours, that I began to walk into some things and doors started opening and God started using me the way that I had been seeking Him to use me. But here's the big catch. It wasn't because I was praying to be used that way. It's because I became usable. Now, when I first started realizing this, it came to me when I started reading in Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 10, which says that everything has already been decided. It was known long ago what each person would be, so there's no use arguing with God about your destiny. You see, I wasn't letting God know what I wanted Him to do through me. God was letting me know over time what it is He wanted to do through me. And that particular opportunity you keep seeking God for is not you pressuring God to try to convince Him to use you. That is God revealing to your heart what it is He created you to do. Let me show you why. In Ephesians 2 and 10, it says that we are God's workmanship. In other words, you weren't born one day and then God said, oh my God, what am I going to do with this baby? That's not how God operates. God had a work, a purpose, a plan, something that needed to be accomplished. And then He turns around from the end to the beginning and starts handcrafting you in the womb, giving you your gifting, your personality, what you like and don't like, where you would be born, who you would be born to, what language you would speak, everything about you. He handcrafted you and made you into the masterpiece that you are to do the work He created you to do. Then in Psalm 37 and 4, it says to delight yourself in the Lord and He will give you the desires of your heart. Now, some believe that means that whatever it is you want from your heart, God is going to give that to you. But I believe there's a deeper understanding from this verse, and it is that if we delight ourselves in God, He will give us the desires of our heart. He will put into us what it is He wants us to desire. So how do you know what your purpose is? You know because it is what it is you desire to do for God. When you see something that's going on that breaks your heart and you want to do something about it, that is God putting a desire in your heart to fulfill a ministry that meets that specific need. Therefore, what it is you're praying for God to use you in, what it is you're saying, God, open this door, let me do this, whatever that is you realizing what God created you to do. That is your purpose. So the question then becomes, if that's what God wants us to do, but we're not yet doing it because we're praying for God to use us that way, yet we're not seeing it happen, then what's the hang up? And that's what I mean, that our prayer should no longer be God, use me, but it should be God, make me usable. So let's walk deeper into this together and talk about what we mean by becoming usable. It's actually in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 20 and 21, which tell us that in a wealthy home, some utensils are made of gold and silver, and some are made of wood and clay. The expensive utensils are used for special occasions, and the cheap ones are for everyday use. If you keep yourself pure, you will be a special utensil for honorable use. Your life will be clean, and you will be ready for the Master to use you for every good work. You see, God's job is to open the door and let us walk into our purpose when the timing is right. But our job is to be ready to walk through the door when it opens. And we become ready by keeping ourselves pure, thereby making ourselves usable in the hands of God to do the great works He wants to do through us. So the question then becomes, how? How do we keep ourselves pure in order to get ready to do what God wants to do? Well, there are 4 specific ways we can go about keeping ourselves pure and making ourselves usable in the hands of God. The first one is consecration. Now, this is probably the most obvious of the 4 because it deals directly with purity. But by consecration, I basically mean living in a way that is different. Now, questions of consecration have nothing to do with salvation. Many Christians who are not consecrated will be going to heaven. The difference between those and consecrated Christians is what type of impact they're going to have between now and then. So consecration has to do with what we watch and don't watch, listen to and don't listen to, who we hang around with and don't hang around with, what we do and don't do, where we go and don't go. The whole concept comes from 1 Peter 1:16, which says to be holy because I am holy. In other words, there are certain things God doesn't do because He's holy, and therefore we shouldn't do them either. Like God don't get drunk. He don't cuss you out on the highway. He doesn't watch horror movies, listen to rap, y tampoco va a la disco pa perrear, tú sabes, pana. So in order for us to consecrate, we don't do those things either. We live the way God would live if He were walking in our shoes. The second way to prepare ourselves for the opportunities God has in front of us is through prayer. Prayer is not an obligation or a duty. It's not something that we do because we have to. It is talking with God, learning how to hear the voice of God speak to our hearts, and it's spending time with Him so that through that time and interaction, we can become like Him. Nobody has ever gone further than their prayer life will take them, and you cannot out-talent a lack of prayer. You may be able to speak really well, sing very well, produce videos, write books, do any type of ministry, but without a true prayer life on a consistent basis, you'll lack spiritual fruit. You won't be able to produce true spiritual life or help for other people in the deepest part of their being because your lack of prayer will result in a lack of spiritual power from inside of you. So prayer is one of the main ingredients in becoming usable in the hands of God. Now, the third way to become pure and usable in the hands of God is through obedience. Now, it's been said that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Now, walking in obedience leads us to those opportunities and prepares us to walk into them whenever we get there. Now, obedience to God is both written and personal. In other words, if it's in the Bible, obviously it's clear it's something that we need to walk in obedience to. However, there's more to it than that. There are certain things because of where God wants to take you that He will require you to do and require you not to do. And it's your obedience to those do's and don'ts, to following the will of God, that will prepare you to walk into the purpose God created you for. The reason He tells you to do something that He's not telling other people to do is because they're not going to the place you're going. He might tell you, don't engage in that. I don't want you to be a part of that. Separate yourself from that. Whereas it might not be sin, it might not be wrong according to the Bible, and everyone else may be doing it. And it doesn't make them wrong or sinful or bad people. It just means that they are doing one thing for God, but you are going to be doing another. Now, there's an additional component to obedience we may want to be aware of, and that's from Luke 16:10, which tells us whoever's faithful with a little bit will be faithful with much. So maybe you're asking God to open a door to let you run a huge soup kitchen in a metroplex, or you want to be the keynote speaker at a major conference, or perhaps you want to help 100 families adopt 100 children. I don't know what your purpose is, but I know this: God will test you in little things right now in your personal life to see if you'll walk in obedience. He may tell you to buy someone's meal in a restaurant, and perhaps we miss that opportunity. We don't obey the voice of God and then go home and say, God, use me to open up a soup kitchen in the Chicago area. But God's like, I just asked you to buy one person a meal today and you bucked at that. And if you desire keynote speeches at major conferences, that's awesome. But how much effort do you put into it when you go speak to 3 or 4 people in a little bitty church in the middle of nowhere that nobody's ever heard about? And helping 100 families adopt 100 children is great, but what about the children in your house right now that God gave you to take care of? You see, we walk through life with little things in our hands, asking God for greatness, and there's nothing wrong with asking. I want you to continue to seek Him for those big things. But at the same time, let's always remember that our obedience to the little things will determine if God sees us as being prepared and ready to walk into the big things. And now the fourth and final aspect of how to make ourselves pure is through suffering. It's by going through things that we don't like, because hardships and trials and pain have a way of refining us and burning out of us what shouldn't be inside of us. I believe it's an awesome quality to strive for greatness and to do amazing things for God and to be a world changer. And maybe the next person who changes the entire world is watching this video right now, because God brought you here to show you that what you want to do is great, but why you want to do it is also important. And you may be going through things you don't understand, that are difficult, that are painful, that are unfair, but it could be that God is allowing some things to happen in your life as a refining process in order to get rid of some stuff out of your heart and put things in it to change your motives and shift you and mold you into becoming usable to do those great things that He wants to use you to do. You see, suffering is very often God's way of getting us ready for what's next. So consecration, prayer, obedience, and suffering will get us ready to move forward into the opportunities God has in front of us. And you don't have to stress or worry about whether or not God's going to use you to do that great thing. His decision to use you is in your heart because He put it there, and His timing is already set. Who you're going to be, your destiny, your purpose is already determined. You cannot change it or force it to happen, but we can prevent it or delay it by refusing to become usable for it. However, since God has already determined this, if we make ourselves pure and ready for the opportunity, God will make it happen in His timing, and He will blow your mind with what He does through you. So with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I pray that God used this video to shift you from use me to usable so that you'll be ready for whatever it is He has in front of you. If you don't mind liking the video, if you haven't done so already, it helps so much with the channel, and I really appreciate it. And look, if you feel a connection with me, go ahead, subscribe, turn on the notifications bell. I post videos consistently, and I'd love for us to stay connected. And if you feel like engaging, go ahead and comment. I love hearing your feedback and responding and interacting there in the comments below. One last thing, if you enjoy reading, I've put out some books. Go ahead and check them out from the link in the description below. It'll take you to the website where you can get whichever ones you'd like. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.